What up, Poppin' T fam? It's your host, Poppin' T, as usual. Poppin' T.
Oh, yeah.
No tea today, just water.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Got to. We got practice in the morning. So, Pop, let us know, man. What's the tea for today?
The T is that two of the league's best wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, both of them are not attending their team's voluntary workouts this week. They are voluntary, but it definitely seems like it was intentional, as they are both amidst contract talks that will most likely end in them becoming two of the highest, if not the highest paid receivers in the league. And I'm sure it's because each of the teams are waiting to see who gets paid first, but we will see how this whole situation turns out.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because they're both set to be free agents after this season. And Devontae Smith just got paid today, 3-year extension, $75 million.
Love that.
So with those two sitting out, like you said, it seems intentional. And, T. Higgins is in contract disputes. We're waiting to see what Jamar gets paid over there in Cincy as well. So I think a lot of teams are just waiting on the other team to pull the trigger, kind of like a Ravens with Madubuike and then Wilkins and Chris Jones type of situation. Teams are just trying to gauge who's paying what. But Jay Jettis would definitely walk out of this situation as the highest paid wide receiver in the league, maybe in history, honestly.
I would say so.
He's definitely deserved it.
It's Tyreek right now, right?
Yeah, it's Reek right now.
Well, speaking of Tyreek, we are going to be breaking down the AFC East today. If you didn't know, Tyreek Hill plays in the AFC East.
For the Dolphins, correct?
Yeah, for the Miami Dolphins.
Gotcha.
So we're going to be breaking down each of these teams in this division, talking about our favorite re-signing that they had, our favorite signing that they had in free agency, and who we think they should draft with their first pick in the NFL draft. Coming up in, as we're recording this, 13 days?
No.
No.
It's the 25th, right? 25th to the 27th?
10 days.
Yeah, I would say so, 10 days.
10 days. I'm excited.
Oh, my God, a week and a half?
Very excited. I know.
I love that.
I love the draft.
Best time of the year, honestly. One of the best times
Draft?
of the year.
Yeah, draft. I'll sit down. I'll get some wings. I'll get some drinks, and it's a whole event. Like, it's very entertaining. At least that first round.
Like, I put nothing on the TV for 3 days except for the NFL draft.
Exactly.
It's just on all day,
Getting
just
home.
running.
Getting home from work, seeing what's going on, seeing who teams are drafting in the 7th round. Like, you never know. You might draft a Geno Stone. You got to keep watching.
I can't support him anymore. When I hear that name.
I know. It's fine. I'll say Voorhees.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Well, let's get started. Hop right into this. You want to start out with the Patriots? Just go down the line?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Let's do it. So, I'm going to start it out with their re-signing. They had a lot of re-signings. I was a little torn between an offensive player and a defensive player, but I think only the transition tag was put on Kyle Duggar, correct?
They re-signed him. He got his deal. Yeah, he got his deal.
Okay. Well, either way, I viewed the Michael Onwenu deal as a better deal. I think Michael Onwenu is one of the better players that they have on the entire roster. Great offensive lineman, super versatile. You can play him all over. He's played right tackle. He's played right guard. He's played left guard. Played all over the offensive line and been consistent as a late-round draft pick. Someone that has not gotten paid very much over his course of his New England career, but just earned himself 3 years, $57 million. Which I think is a great move for a team that has had a lot of offensive line struggles in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they really have. the team in general has had a lot of struggles over the last couple of years. But he's really been one of the cornerstone pieces of that team. He's only 26 years old. Like you said, he has a lot of versatility. He can basically play all five positions on the line. You just love to see that, especially when you can get it at. I know 57 mil over 3 years is kind of a high clip, but when you have a guy that can play all five and has the caliber to not only play all five but can start at all five positions, I just don't really think you can put a price tag on that.
And you got to remember, Dickerson just got himself 20 a year, and I personally think Onwenu's a better player, more valuable player at least.
Definitely.
And so to be able to steal him for 3 years at that price tag, especially with how high the interior offensive line contracts have jumped this free agency, I think it's a great deal for the Patriots, who are trying to hang on to any good players that they have.
Definitely. So for the Patriots, signing wise, they weren't really too active this free agency. It was really, I believe, 2 years ago was their big spending year, where they were kind of just throwing money at everybody. But kind of after going through my options, I decided to go with Austin Hooper, tight end. Hasn't really done too much as of recent. He's a backup for them, and I think he's a very serviceable backup. Career high was in 2019 with Atlanta, 75 receptions, almost 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. And the reason why this is the most valuable signing for them is because he's rejoining his OC, Alex Van Pelt, who he was with for 2 years in Cleveland. So he's obviously going to bring a lot of his own stuff over. So just having a guy who's already been in that offense, has played under that OC, it'll definitely be a smooth transition for them this offseason going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been saying about this team, they have no weapons. So to be able to add one on the cheap, a serviceable tight end, you can never hate that. How much did he end up getting?
I think it's less than 5. Not
That sounds
100%
about right.
sure on the contract details.
Yeah, but either way, we got to add something to that offense.
1 year,
But
$3.1 million deal.
yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, nice little addition to that offense where there seems to be no talent. But that brings me to their draft pick. They drafted 3 overall this year. We all know they're going to take a quarterback at 3. It seems like it's written in stone at this point, but I'm going to talk about what I would do if I was this team. We've talked about it extensively, but to me, the options are Marvin Harrison or trade down. You could get an absolute haul for trading out of 3, or you could add probably the best player in the class in Marvin Harrison. To me, a QB is just going to be a wasted pick. It's going to be very similar to the Bryce Young situation, if not worse. You have a brand new head coach, just like Bryce Young had. You have similar weapons, if not worse, in New England. You don't. Who was their head coach last night? Reich? Reich's an offensive guy, right?
You said Reich?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least Bryce had an offensive coach. Gerard Mayo, defensive guy. Like, I think that it would be putting that QB into the worst situation in the NFL. And I think that you can wait until next year. Maybe you don't end up with the same caliber of QB class next year, but I mean, look at what Atlanta did. Look at what the Steelers just did. Look at what the Jets just did. Like, there's going to be QBs available. The league is constantly shifting around. And to add a blue chip talent or a haul, and let's say you trade down with the Vikings and you get an offensive lineman and then Brian Thomas, and then maybe you take a shot at Penix in the second round. That sounds way better to me than taking Jaden Daniels at 3 and making him throw to Pop Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm sorry, like.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do with the pick 3, with the third pick. Oh my gosh, the third pick in the first round. English has been tough for me today.
Sorry, it's late.
I was at the hotel.
Yeah.
Sorry for the diversion. I work at a hotel, but like the first person I talked to, she was like, "Hey, how do I get to the UPS store?" And I said, and I literally had to stop myself, and I went, "I'm so sorry. It's on the 3rd floor. The elevators are on the left."
Jeez, man.
That's how my day's gone. But either way, didn't mean to interrupt you.
What was I saying? Yeah, I think I gotta agree with you. I really don't want to. With taking Harrison at 3, just because the quality of the quarterback class next year. Your top prospects coming out of next year are Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Cam Ward. Cam Ward from Miami, Carson Beck from Georgia, Quinn Ewers from Texas, and Shedeur, y'all know, is at Colorado. I just don't think that level, that quarterback class doesn't stack up with this class like at all, in my opinion. So it really just depends.
At least
on,
not yet.
Yeah, not yet for sure. What mentality the Patriots are in. I think if you're in a win now, I think you have to go quarterback. Obviously, they aren't in a win now position. But like if that's the thought in the room, then I feel like you got to go Jaden at 3. But if they're fine with with not being good for a while and taking some time to do this the correct way, I think like you said, Harrison are trading down, getting a haul of picks back because that number 3 picks means that you'll get a shot at one of those 3 quarterbacks for any other team. Once you get out of 3, now it's a question mark because we know Caleb and Drake, are going 1 and 2. The question is who goes 3. So I think a lot of teams would trade a lot to get Jaden in that position. But yeah, I don't know. The Patriots are just in a very, very sticky situation. But I'm also not mad at that Penix in the 2nd round. Also, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I just think that Penix plus assets is better than Jaden and maybe Ladd in
2nd round.
In the 2nd.
Yeah.
I mean, it might even sound better to me to have Marvin Harrison and Penix than Jaden and Xavier Legette or Ladd or something like that. But
yeah. Whatever they do, they have to find a quarterback because their starter right now is Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, that's true.
So whether it's this year in the 1st or the 2nd, quarterback has to be a selection for them at some point in this draft.
I do think that Mayo will have a lot of runway. Unless it goes horrendously, which I don't think it will. Like, it would have to be Panthers level bad. Where they kind of had expectations this year to at least be somewhat competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's expecting the Patriots to be competitive.
Nah, not at all.
And it's a different ownership group. I know that. I think the owner's name in Carolina is Tepper, but Tepper's just kind of one of the crazier owners in the NFL. Makes a lot of rash decisions. I don't think that the Patriots owner, Robert Kraft, is going to do that, especially when he picked Gerard from the previous regime. So I think that if they don't draft a QB this year, Gerard can feel pretty safe about his job security.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any rush to. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't remember which one it was, but they were talking about the head of player, or they were talking to the head of player personnel with the Bears. And he got fired, or that whole staff got fired right after the 2021 season. And they essentially were told you have to draft a quarterback this draft.
Hmm.
The 2021 draft. And they were picking at like 23. They had to trade up to get Fields. So they
Ah,
didn't have like a premium pick, and like they were told like you have to basically pick a quarterback and make this team competitive now or you're all going to lose your jobs.
wow.
So they were kind of forced into that situation. I think it's the opposite here. I don't think they're forced into anything.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
think
so.
if Gerard can sit down with Kraft and be like, "Give me another year. We're going to take some studs this draft, but we're not going to have the QB fixed yet. Just give it some time." I think that's the better play.
Yeah, and I think just even the fact that there's still a question mark of who they go at 3 shows you that, like, this isn't a Bear situation. Like,
Hmm.
there are talks about multiple players, going in different directions. So yeah, I definitely think Mayo's job isn't on the line in any sense, shape, or form after the season. Um,
Yeah,
but all right, let's
but
let's
they
get
are.
on to the Bills, then I guess. Um,
Hmm.
I had to re-sign for this team. I had to go with Big Deion Dawkins. I think they call him the Iceman over there in Buffalo. Um, I don't know. I think it's a solid nickname. I'll give it to him. But he's
Yeah,
6'5", 320. He's a human, mountain of a human being. He's been very good these last couple of seasons. He's been a Pro Bowler for the last 3 seasons. Only allowed 1 sack last year, and had a 6.9 pressure rate on all his pass pros, which is third amongst left tackles in the league. I think he signed a 3-year, $75 million extension. Um,
that's serious.
so yeah, he's been very good for them. I love the re-signing. The Bills basically like cleared house, and he was one of the few players to stay. So they definitely have faith in him protecting Josh's blind side for a while.
Yeah, I don't. I know they cleared house, but they made it clear that Dion was a priority and
Yeah,
that they wanted to protect Josh. And clearly, they think Josh can make it work with lesser talent now, as opposed to before when they went out and got Stephon Diggs.
yeah. A
But
lot. I want
and
to say that Dion's contract was 3 for 60.
okay, that sounds way better.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I just think that they must believe that Josh can make it work with lesser weapons, but an offensive line is always going to be important. You know how much we value the offensive line here on this podcast, and we can't hate a re-sign of one of the league's best.
Definitely.
Well, speaking about those weapons, for my signing, they really didn't sign many people because they are in cap space hell, especially with that Von Miller contract. But they brought in Curtis Samuel from the Washington Commanders. Had to get a wide receiver in. Just could not let that group remain the same. He's a solid wide receiver 3. He's been a solid wide receiver 3 for most of his career. A really good gadget piece. I think he's taken some snaps at running back in the past. So, a good, solid player. Definitely don't want him being your number one, but as of right now, he's the 1 or 2, depending on how you view Khalil Shakir. But they gave him 3 years, 24. Not too much money, especially considering Devontae Smith got 3 times that. So it's kind of fitting that Curtis is a number 3. But yeah, just had to get someone in that room.
Yeah. Um, they got me and you out there, wide receiver. There's not much going on over there in Buffalo. And I'll let that take me into my draft pick for them. They picked 28th in the first round this year. I said this a while ago, but I still like them taking Keon Coleman. Um, I know there's a lot of wide receivers. I know there's a lot of good wide receivers in this class, Bob. You're shaking your head right now. I know, I understand, I get it. There's a lot of talent in this draft. There's a lot, a lot, a lot. I think Keon brings a lot to the table, especially after trading away Stephon. Like, I liked him next to Stephon. Now that there is no Stephon, I like him even more over there. Um, he's a go-getter. He's going to go get the ball. If the ball is in the air, it's his. He's 6'3", 213. He's not as fast as the other wide receivers. He ran a 4.61 at the combine, but he was a first team All ACC, first team at wide receiver and special teams. I think he was top 5 in FBS and punt return yards last year. Like he isn't the fastest on the field, but the kid is an athlete. He's a dog. When he, the short to intermediate routes, he fully catches the ball with his arms locked out. He full extension to the ball. He's not catching it with his body. He's not letting defenders get near the ball. He's boxing guys out, in the short routes, and he's going and getting it on the deep balls. And I think that Josh is going to need a guy like that. Because like when you look at the wide receiver room right now, it's Khalil Shakir, Kurt Samuel, Mac Hollins, Andy Isabella, KJ Hamlin. Like those aren't guys that you can really go throw the ball to go get it. And I think Keon, besides Odunze, is one of the few wide receivers in this class that is like one of those go get it wide receivers. And I think Josh Allen is going to need that a lot this season.
Keon's definitely was great at FSU. He really does go up and get most of the balls that are thrown his way. He also, the route tree's not super extensive, but he's very good on those comebackers, those 10-yard hitches. He can really clamp down, plant his foot in the ground, turn around, and be that big body to catch the football. I was going to say suck in, but I'll leave it.
Hey,
But I think, I don't know, I just feel like he has bust written all over him. I don't know why I feel like he's N'Keal Harry.
Ooh. I'm not mad at that. I understand it. I completely understand.
I just never... Those big body wide receivers that go in the first round, I feel like they just don't have anywhere near the same hit rate as like maybe the smaller separators. But one place where I do think that Keon could excel is as like a bigger slot. Kind of like a Juju Smith. Because, like I said, he can really plant his foot in the ground. And if he doesn't have to burn with speed, and he can burn just by the fact that he's in the slot and you don't have the sideline to protect you, like, I don't know. I think he could be a very good slot receiver. Like, I don't know how you feel about that take.
I can see him in the slot. I do like the Juju comparison because Juju also isn't one of the faster guys in the league. Not saying he can't move, but I think when you have a guy like Keon who's an athlete like he is, you can afford to play him in the slot. I just don't know if in this Bills offense you can afford to play him in the slot because of who else is around him. I really do think he has to be your go get it guy, your outside wide receiver one. And he's very good
Probably
with
early.
Yeah. He steps through a lot. He steps through a lot of tackles. So you definitely can play him in the slot. Get him in a gadget, please. Get him some out of the backfield runs, stuff like that, sweeps. But I think he can go make an immediate impact over there in Buffalo.
Yeah. I'm gonna have him on bust watch, but they definitely need talent at the wide receiver position, so I can't hate the pick. I don't know if my feelings about him are warranted. It's just a gut feeling.
I'm not mad at it, especially
I've felt it since the jump. Yeah. But I think that'll wrap up the Bills. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins, where Tyreek Hill plays, highest paid wide receiver in the league, if you didn't know. But
Cheetah.
For their re-signing, I went with... This was another one of those teams that... Actually, that's not true. I was going to say it was one of those teams that didn't have a lot of signings, but they did have a good amount of signings, just not a lot of re-signings. I decided to go with Isaiah Wynn, who won the left... He was drafted as a tackle by the Patriots.
Yeah.
I think it was 2018.
I feel like...
And struggled there
Yeah, it was
for
20.
the
He was drafted in
Patriots.
2018. He was part of that
Struggled
class.
struggled there, um, but he gets traded to the Dolphins. Or I don't know if he was cut and picked up, but I think he was traded. Won the spot at left guard in training camp of last season and was a solid piece for them until he tore his ACL in week 7.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's any risk to this signing at only $2.3 million 1 year. We know Tua is a quarterback that needs protection, especially with his injury history. And to bring back a dude that won the spot last year on such a cheap contract with no long term commitment, I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. Just got to see how he gets back from injury. Like you said, it's a 1 year deal, so it's not really that big of a risk, especially after losing Hunt um, to Carolina. You just always need offensive linemen. Like I know I'm an O lineman. I know I'm biased, but like I always harp on it. Like depth at the positions is never a bad thing. Especially when you have a guy that used to play tackle and now plays guard, so you have that switchability. Even though he's better inside, you might even like him more on the right side with Hunt being gone. They might try him on the other side and see how it goes. And draft. Never mind, I don't want to spoil your draft pick later. But an interior lineman who can move around with him also. Um, but for my signing, it's actually on the other side of the ball. Shaq Barrett from Tampa Bay signed a 1 year, $9 million deal. So kind of the same thing as Wynn. It's not a big risk. It's only a 1 year deal, so if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But they lost Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips last year to season-ending injuries. And then they lost their backup edge rusher, Van Ginkel, in the offseason to the Vikings. So it's like they needed edge, especially coming into camp and workouts. Like Chubb and Phillips aren't going to be ready to go by the time August rolls around, most likely. So they need help. It's a pretty cheap deal for a pass rusher. Had a 10% pressure rate last year, which was 33rd best in the NFL. And Van Ginkel had 10.7 pass rush pressure rate. So he's only zero point 0.7 behind Van Ginkel. So he's not coming in there to be your starter. He's just going to be a rotational piece for them. So I think getting him 1 year, $9 million deal. He's going to be a third edge rusher. I don't think it's a bad pickup at all.
I thought it was a great signing, especially with the uncertainties with your two premium edge rushers. Had to bring in someone to at least hold down the ship until they came back and got right.
Yeah.
But I really do think that defense could struggle until Chubb and Phillips come back full strength. But
I
maybe
still,
Shaq Barrett can keep that from happening.
yeah, I still can't believe that he had 19 and a half sacks in 2019. Like
He had a crazy year that year.
he had never put up numbers like that before, and he hasn't put up numbers like that since. Like I don't understand what happened during that one season. Oh, hold up. I think that might have been Jameis's 30-30 year. And if that's the
Yeah, it was.
case, then he was on the field almost all game because Jameis threw 30 picks. So I guess that's why. Shout out to Jameis Winston.
Making Shaq excel.
Got him
I was
paid.
actually I watched him tear his ACL live. I think that's the first time I've ever seen something like that. But I was I was playing against, or I was watching the Ravens play against him, but it still broke my heart to watch
Yeah.
him go down like that.
That
But
Dolphins game, week
no,
18. You talking about Shaq?
no, Shaq. When we played the Bucks last year,
Got you.
I
Got
went
you.
to the game, and I think he went down.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the draft pick. They pick at 24. This was a tough pick for me because I want. I know I had a crazy take of taking Bo Nix when we did our mock draft, and I'm still not off the idea.
Here we
I
go.
do think the smarter pick is probably Jackson Powers Johnson. Uh, Same school as Bo Nix, played center there. The Oregon center, great player. Um, Absolute mammoth of a human. He's built like a square. I don't know if you noticed that, but that dude is just a brick wall.
Bit like a cube.
But they definitely need help on the trenches. I just have no clue if he's gonna be there at 24.
I don't think so.
I've seen him get drafted higher than 15, or as late as like 26, 27. So I have no clue if he's gonna be there. So, but it still remains to be said. Do you want to pay Tua $55 million a year? But
I don't. You just no good answer to that.
here's the thing. I was very vocal about the fact that you can address it next year with the Patriots. Maybe you wait it out one more year and see how he plays this year and just
There we go.
wait it out. So
Here's that common
have-
sense. I know you got a little common sense there.
I just feel very strongly that you should not pay Tua based on what he's put on tape over the last couple
I agree
years.
with you, but Bo Nix is not the answer to your problems.
Probably not.
Probably be taking a step back. But yeah, I love that JPJ pick there at what did you say, 26?
24.
24, my bad. But yeah, I just don't think he'll be there. I think the lowest he gets is to 20. But we'll see in a week and a half. See what happens. So going on to the Jets, our last team. For me, retained was punter Thomas Morstead. I think that was the most notable re-signing in my opinion. He downed 40 punts within the 20 last year, the opponent 20-yard line. Had a net punt gross average of 48.8 yards per punt. Net ended up being like 41 minus the return yards. And he led the NFL in punts last season. Obviously, the Jets weren't very good. So he's very valuable, for his team. He's very good at what he does.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time. Special teams is important. So
Special teams,
especially
special plays,
for a team that likes to punt
special players.
so much.
There you go, baby.
What's up, brother? All right, well, enough about the punter. For my signing, I was actually between two tie players. The first of which was Tyrod Taylor. After the terrible backup quarterback play that they got last year, I like them bringing in a backup quarterback, but I inevitably decided on Tyron Smith, tackle from the Cowboys. You absolutely needed protection for Rodgers after he got hurt on the fourth play last season. Can he stay healthy is really the main question with Tyron Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't played more than 13, or he hasn't played more than 14 games since 2020, I don't think. He played 13 games last season and 4 the year before. But the thing about Tyron Smith is he is still playing at a Pro Bowl level when he does play, when he is on the field.
Yep.
And the Jets definitely need that. This is another one of those no risk deals at only 1 year, $6.5 million for Tyron Smith is crazy. So I love that move for the Jets. And you just gotta hope that some of their older stars can stay healthy, because if they can, this Jets team is locked and loaded.
Yeah. Like you said, he's still one of the best. He just can't really stay on the field. I love that signing for him. It's Tyron Smith. We're talking about one of the best players of our generation. So even when you can sign a guy like that at any point in his career, especially when he's still playing at a high level, you gotta love that for your team. So to wrap this thing all up, the Jets hold the 10th pick in this year's draft. If we're going to be completely honest, the Jets have one of the best rosters in football. Like
No doubt.
preseason wise, before you strap on helmets and all that, like before we see it on the field, like on paper, this is one of the best rosters on football. There aren't too many holes. They can honestly trade out of 10th if they wanted to. Like that's how good their roster is right now. But in this situation, we're going to stay there and we're going to take Brock Bowers out of UGA. To me, like that's the only quote unquote hole. Tyler Conklin is your starting tight end. If you could add a guy like Brock Bowers to the mix, that'll just take your offense to that next level. Garrett Wilson, Mike Will, Brees Hall, Brock Bowers, Aaron Rodgers, disgusting. Led the team in receiving all 3 years at UGA, over 2,500 total yards, 26 receiving touchdowns, 31 in total. 6'3", 243, supposedly ran a 4.53 at his pro day. He's very George Kittle-esque. He's not as well of a blocker, but he's a very fluid mover. Is almost a wide receiver in a tight end's body, the way he can move. He has to get better.
I think of like Likely or Jonnu, like those H-backs.
Yeah.
The smaller, the ones that you're not getting as much out of. Someone actually compared him to Kyle Juszczyk, but on steroids. Like
I'm not mad at that.
Kyle, but way more consistent as a receiving threat. And I can see it. Like Kyle is a very underrated receiver in his own right. But if you can get Brock going out of the backfield, move him all over the field, because this is a player that you want in space, catching the ball with room to run. And he is going to pay dividends. I think he's going to be good immediately. So,
yeah.
If you're going to draft anyone at 10, they better be good, especially with the window that your team has. And Brock Bowers is going to be good immediately.
Yeah. I actually saw something the other day. It was like in the last 10 years, there have been 9 first-round tight ends. None of them have had over 1,000-yard season, and they've combined for 0 All-Pros.
Wow.
So will Brock be the one to finally break the curse and
Yes.
get those first-round tight ends some stats?
Yes.
Yes. Got to hear first from Poppy. I'm hearing a yes. Me, I don't know personally. I don't know how Brock is going to do. Because I don't know. I feel like they might check him in the NFL. Like it's not college anymore. It's not little boys. It's grown men with kids. He's going to get popped in the running game for sure. Like that's his biggest weakness to me. Like watching it on film, watching him in game, but he stepped through tacklers very well. But like it's college, so like I don't know if it's going to be the same in the NFL.
Yeah. For sure. Well, we have less than a minute here, so we're gonna wrap this thing up. But do us a favor, if you're listening to this episode, let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or on our Instagram. DM us who's winning this division. I'm very curious. It's definitely going to be a very new look after some of the moves that have been made.
Real quick, who you got?
But the Jets.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one.
Well, thanks for listening to us. We're going to get out of here, but expect the AFC breakdowns before the draft.
Sir, come check back in with us next week.